Hi and welcome to Candyfloss Crochet. Are you excited to start on your first square of your tile blanket? This is one we're going to be working on today. So I've done a few here. You need to make 8 of these. So we're going to go through step by step, and then what you need to do at the end is rewind the video and repeat it 8 times. I will write a brief description of the pattern in the description below if you don't want to keep re-watching the video. But here we go. Let's get started with this one. So as you can see, the first colour we're going to be using is mustard. Now I appreciate some of you will have picked different colours to start with. So if you take a moment, have a look at this one and decide which order you'd like your colours to work in. So for this colour scheme, we're starting off with mustard, then duck egg, white, royal, and then we have cloud blue and aster. So that's our colour pattern that we're going to be using today. So let's start off with our magic circle in our mustard yarn. You'll need a 4mm hook, you'll need your scissors to snip off your ends, and a darning needle to sew in those ends. So I always start with a magic circle, but if you prefer you can start with a chain circle. So I'm going to show you how to do a magic circle, but I'm going to put a link in the description below to my tutorial on the magic circle in case I go too quickly for you and you want to recap. So place the tail end of your yarn over your fingers and pinch it with your thumb. Take it over the back of your hand, back under your hand, crossing over and pinch under your thumb again, over the top so you've got tram lines, and back under that thumb. Taking your hook, with your hook facing down, go under the first yarn, grab the second yarn, pull it under and twist it. So it's now twisted on your hook. Now grab that same yarn again and twist it again. So you now have 2 loops on your hook. Removing your hand, you're slip stitching one over the other, pull in the end, and that is your magic circle. So if that was a little bit too fast for you, rewind the video, or alternatively you can have a look at my video that I have on a magic circle. So I'm going to pull mine down quite small, and we're going to work 8 half treble, so this is UK terms, half treble crochets into our circle. So yarn over, insert your hook, yarn over, pull through 3 loops on your hook, yarn over, pull through all 3. That's a half treble. Do it again. So yarn over into the circle, yarn over, pull through 3 loops, yarn over, pull through all 3. The next one, yarn over, insert, yarn over, pull through 3 loops, yarn over, pull through all 3. And you can continue all the way around until you have 8 half treble crochets in your circle. So how many have I got now? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Pull my yarn out. 7 and 8. So that's my half treble crochets in my circle. At this point you can pull in your tail end to tighten up your circle, and you're going to slip stitch into the top of your first stitch. So if you count back, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That's my 8th stitch there. I'm just going to insert my hook into that stitch, to the top of that stitch, yarn over, pull through, and then I'm going to take the loop that's already on my hook over the one I've just pulled through, and that's your slip stitch. That is your centre, and that's all you need for the very first round. So if you take your scissors and you snip off your yarn and pull through, and at this point if you wanted to you can sew in your ends, is entirely up to you, but if you're ready we're going to move straight on to the next stage. So in this one we're using the duck egg blue, so let me just get hold of that yarn. So this is my duck egg blue, and we're going to work cluster stitches. So to work a cluster, you're going to work them in each stitch all the way around, and this is what a cluster looks like. This is our cluster stitches. Okay, and we're going to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 of those, and we're going to have chains in between, so chain 3s in between. So let's get cracking on the cluster stitch. So pick any loop at the top, any of your stitches, insert your hook and join your new yarn with a slip stitch. Okay, and that's your first second yarn colour joined on, and you need to do a treble, UK treble cluster stitch. Okay, so to start off with, yarn over, insert your hook back into that stitch, yarn over, pull through 3 loops on your hook, yarn over, pull through 2, pause at this point, yarn over again, go back into that space, yarn over, pull through 4 loops on your hook, yarn over, pull through 2 of them, so you've now got 3. You're going to do it one more time, yarn over, insert your hook, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through 2, 4 loops on your hook, yarn over, pull through all 4. So you've got your little cluster stitch here, and that pulls it all together. Now you're going to chain 3, 2, 3, find our next stitch, and we're going to do exactly the same again. So yarn over, insert, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over again, insert, yarn over, pull through 4 loops, yarn over, pull through 2, 3 loops, in you go again, yarn over, pull through 2, leaving you with 4 loops. When you get to the 4 loop stage, you're pulling through on all 4. Chain 3, find your next stitch, yarn over, insert, yarn over, pull through 3 loops on your hook, yarn over, pull through 2 of them, yarn over, back in and insert, yarn over, pull through, and you've got 4 loops on your hook, yarn over, pull through 2 of them. Third and final time, yarn over, insert, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through 2, 4 loops on your hook, yarn over, pull through all 4, chain 3. Okay, so work all the way around, and at the end you should have 8 cluster stitches. Don't forget the very last one to do your last chain 3, because you need these gaps between. So pause the video here, work all the way around until you get to your ends, and you might want to sew your ends in at this point just to get rid of them. It makes it a lot easier come the end of your project rather than doing it all at the last minute. And when you reach the end, then rejoin me and I will show you how to finish off this round, and we'll be joining our next colour, which will be white. Okay, so you should now have worked all the way around, and you should have 8 cluster stitches with 8 sets of chain 3s all the way around between them. Your last cluster should have a chain 3 at the top, and you're just going to slip stitch into the top of the next cluster just to finish off this round. So into the top here. So insert your hook, yarn over, pull through, and then pull through the loop that's already on your hook over the one you've just pulled through. And that's the end of that round. So you can now, okay, so you're now ready to join your next colour. You have your clusters in the duck egg blue, and my next colour is white. So we're going to join our white into the chain 3 gap that we created. It doesn't matter which one you start with. So just join with a slip stitch and then chain 2. Now this represents a half treble. The next stitch you're going to do is into that chain 3 space, is a normal UK treble. And then you're going to do a double treble. So to do a double treble, you yarn over twice, insert your hook, yarn over, pull through 4 loops on your hook, yarn over, pull through 2, 3 loops, yarn over, pull through 2, 2 loops, yarn over, pull through the last 2. Now we're going to do a normal treble again, and finishing off with a half treble. So what we're trying to create here, let me just show you on the finished article, is that fan shape. So we're starting off with a smaller stitch, and then we're working up to the peak and back down the other side. So that's what we're trying to create on this one. You now need to do a double crochet, so more or less every stitch you've ever learned you're going to use into the top of the cluster stitch here. So into the top here, work a double crochet, then move on to your next chain 3 space, starting with a half treble, then a treble, then a double, then a treble. We're working back down the other side, finishing off with a half treble, and then a DC into the top of the cluster, the next cluster, and that just anchors those down. So you might want to write it down if you want to go and get yourself a pen and paper and write down the repeat that you're going to do, because you're going to work it all the way around. And then when you get to the end, pause and I will show you how to finish off this row. But just to recap, so you start off with your half treble, then a treble, then a double treble, then another treble, another half treble, and you're finishing off with a DC into the top of your cluster stitch here. So into this stitch, just show you there, into this stitch here, just to anchor down each one of these petals that you're creating. So if you want to pause the video now, work all the way around till you've got 8 petals and each one's anchored down in between, and rejoin me at the end and I'll show you how to finish off this row. And the next colour we'll be using is the royal blue. Okay, so you should now work round and have your 8 petals in white. I finished off my last half treble crochet into this chain 3 space. I'm just going to do my DC stitch into the top of the cluster just to finish that one off, and then I'm going to slip stitch into the top of the next chain where we started, and that finishes off that row. You can now snip off your end, pull through, and we're now going to be working into our double crochet stitch. So it's our double treble stitch. So you need to find your tulle stitch and you need to find the V at the top of that tulle stitch all the way through. So when you're looking at your work, you've got your half treble, your treble, that's your double treble, treble, half treble. So you're looking for that top stitch each time, and you're going to be working into that one with our next colour, which is for me royal blue. So pick any of your double trebles and just slip stitch in, going into the top of that stitch. And now I want you to chain 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Go across to your next double treble and work a DC, a double crochet into that one, chain 6 again, 5 and 6, skip across to the next one, find my double treble and work a double crochet into the top of that one. And what we're basically doing here, I bring this one in to show you, we're creating this loop here. So we're going to be working into this chain 6 space on the next one. So you're working round and you're doing 6 double crochets, and then you're doing 6 chains and then a double crochet into the top of your double treble. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Find your next one and work a double crochet into that one, and work all the way around until you get to the end, not forgetting to do your last chain 6, and then you can just slip stitch it into the end or the beginning of your round. So you should now have worked all the way around and have your chain 6s all the way around your circle with your last chain 6 on the hook, and you're just going to slip stitch that into the first stitch that you started with. Keeping your royal blue on, we're now going to work a double crochet into that same stitch that you just slip stitched into, and then you need to work 7 double crochets into the chain 6 space. Now this is where we get to the point where it's quite important to have the exact numbers, so I'll show you why on this one here. We're going to be working a DC into the point here at the flower. We're going to work 7 double crochets all the way along, and then we're going to anchor, do a DC there, because when we go on to our next round, we're going to start making a square and we're going to start working our corners. Now there's 15 stitches here between our corners, so it's important that you get your 7 in here, 1 in the middle and 7 there to make 15 on each side, otherwise your count will be out and your pattern won't repeat properly. So let's get cracking with that one. So we've done our first DC into this anchored point here, and we're just going to work 7 double crochets into the chain 6 space. So that's 2, 3, 4, my yarn's pulling, 5, oh that was a treble, let's do that one again, 5, 6, if they're a bit squashed up just pull them along a bit, 7, then I've got to my anchored point, I'm going to work a DC into that one, and then I'm going to do another 7 into the next chain 6 space. So that's 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. Find my one that's already anchored down, work a DC into that one, and carry on round. So as you see, we're starting to build up the shape of this one. So work all the way around, doing 7 double crochets into the chain 6 space with 1 in the middle to anchor it down, and join me when you get to the end and I will show you where we go from there. Okay, so you should now have worked all the way around your circle, and you should have worked your 7 double crochets into the chain 6 space, a double crochet into the joining point in the middle, and all the way around. And I put a stitch marker here, which I'm going to show you why I put that in there in a second. So to finish off your row, make sure you've done your 7th there, and you're just going to work your last double crochet into that anchor down point there. And you can now snip off the royal blue and pull your yarn through. You might have noticed as I've gone along I have been weaving in my ends. I leave the center one generally because I find as you're working you're pulling on your work and it pulls apart slightly, so I want to get it nice and tight at the end, so I leave that one to the very end of my work. Okay, so let's move on to our next color, which is for me this beautiful Aster blue, no sorry, cloud blue, this one. And what we need to do is start making our corners. So we're here, so we've done this round here, and we now need to do this blue round here. And mine's a little bit wobbly to look at because I haven't blocked it yet, but when you block it, it will look quite nice and flat. And what we need to do is work our 15 stitches along here into the dip in the middle and along to this end, and then create a corner. So we're doing 15 trebles, and then in the corner we're doing 2 double trebles, and we're doing a chain 3 and 2 double trebles. So that's my corner there, and in between those corners I have 15 trebles. So I hope that's quite clear. So the easiest way to do it, which I found makes it a lot easier than getting all the way along and realizing you've miscounted, is to work out your 15. So if I start at this point here, let me just get my, might be hard to see because it's quite a dark color. So this is my first stitch, so that's 1 2 3 4 5 6 7. My 8th one is anchored down at the bottom, 9 10 11 12 13 14 15, and my 16th one, which is going to be my corner, is the one that's anchored down below. So I hope that makes it a little bit clearer for you. So let's join our yarn, and we're going into that first stitch there. So it's the one before the one that's been anchored down in the middle, so sorry, one after the one that's been anchored down in the middle. So join with a slip stitch, all fingers and thumbs today. Okay, and we're going to chain 3 on that one to represent a treble, and working into the next one you're working a UK treble all the way along for a count of 15. You should be coming over the top into the top of each stitch. Make sure you don't miss any. Next one's there. Come up to the last few. That's my last one. So I should have, with my starting chain, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. And I've got to my stitch marker, which is my corner. I'm going to just take that one out of the way, and I'm going to work a UK double treble into that. So that's yarn over twice, insert, yarn over, pull up, 4 loops, yarn over, pull through 2, 2 loops, yarn over, pull through 2, 2 loops, yarn over, pull through 2. Do that one again. Chain 3, back into the same space, do 2 more double trebles, which will create your corner. Okay, so that's my first corner done, and that's my next stitch, which is just a normal treble. So like we did before, you're working 15 trebles all the way along, and in the 16th one you're going to create your next corner. Oh, missed the top of my stitch. So if you want to pause the video at this point, work all the way along, and you need to obviously have 4 corners and 15 stitches in between. It's quite important that you get your stitch count right to make sure your square lies flat, but also when we get to the next stage, when we've got several squares and we're joining them together, you need to be able to match those stitches up as you go along to get a nice straight join. So keep going all the way along, 15 trebles around the sides, and when you get to the 16th stitch, you're working 2 double trebles, a chain 3, 2 double trebles. So pause the video at this point, work all the way around, and join me when you get to the end, and we will look at joining this square together. So you should have now worked all the way around with 15 trebles before you get to a corner, and in the 16th stitch you worked 2 double trebles with a chain 3 and then 2 double trebles, another 15 trebles, another corner, all the way around, so you've got your 4 corners, and you should be on your very last one now. And you just need to slip stitch into the top of this chain here to finish off this row before we join our next colour. That one's through, pull that one through. Okay, so you should have now finished off your cloud blue, and you should have your corners and your 15 stitches in between. We now need to add on our Aster blue colour, and we're going to be working into the back loop, and as you can probably see here, it forms like a nice little braid almost along the edges when you work into the back loop of the stitches. But we do need to make sure our stitch count is correct. So in between the corners we should have 19 trebles, and the corners themselves are made up with 2 trebles and chain 3 and another 2 trebles. So in total we'll have 23 from chain 3 to chain 3 on each corner. Now it's very important that we get those correct, because each square that we make in this pattern will have an edge of 23 stitches, and that makes it a lot easier and a lot neater when you're joining them together. So let's start. So pick any corner, any chain 3 corner from the previous round, join with a slip stitch, chain 3, that counts as our first treble, and we're working another treble into that corner. We're going to chain 3, 2, 3, and another 2 trebles into that corner space. So that's your first corner completed. Now, as I said, we're going to work a back loop. So if you haven't worked a back loop before, when you look at the top of your work, you have your V's here, and this is the front loop, and this one here is classed as a back loop. So you're going to be going into the back loop, not into the full stitch. Okay, so we're going to work a UK treble. This is our first stitch, so don't forget this one. It's very, sorry, I've dropped my needle. It's very easy to forget this stitch. This is our first stitch, and we want that back loop there. So yarn over is a UK treble, insert into the back loop, yarn over as normal, and pull through into the next back loop. As you can see, they pull out a little bit to start with, but it does even out once you get going. So you're looking down from the top, and you're just picking up the back loop of the stitch all the way along. And when you get to your corner, you're going to work into the chain 3 space from the previous round, and you're going to be working 2 trebles, a chain 3 and 2 trebles, and then picking up your back loop stitches on the edges. So between the corners you have 19 stitches, including the 2 on each end of the corners, you end up with 23 stitches. So work all the way along. As you can see, by picking up the back loop, it started to form this lovely little braid all the way along. So work all the way along, 19 stitches. When you get to the corner, 2 trebles, chain 3, 2 trebles, all the way around, and then we finish up back where we started, and I'll show you how to finish up the very last part. Okay, so you should now have worked all the way around your square, and you should have 23 stitches between each chain 3 gap, or if you want to count it a different way, that you have 19 stitches between your corners on each side. You're on your last one. And remember, your first one was a chain, so just slip stitch into the top of the chain. Let's get both of these. And that finishes off this row. You can now snip off your yarn. And if you haven't already, as you've gone along, weave in all your ends. So I've got my middle one left to do, and the 2 from this colour to just finish off. But that's the end of your first square. Good news is you've done it, well done. Bad news is you need to do 7 more of these to make your square up before moving on to the next one. So as I promised, I will put a written description below in the description box of each of the rounds. So there's 7 rounds to go through, and you will need all your colours in preparation for it. And then the next one we're going to work on is this one, which is using a bit more of the mustard stitch or mustard colour on my square, and this is square number 2. So if you want to crack on, make 7 more of these, and then join me for the second video where we'll start work on the next square for you in this beautiful pattern. Thanks for watching.